That's what we're going to find out today. So, let's dive right in. Now, polar bears live at the top of the planet. And if you've ever seen one in the wild or in a zoo, you probably noticed they spend a lot of time in the water. In fact, some polar bear experts say polar bears are just as comfortable in the water as they are on land. And that's saying a lot because polar bears are not exactly known for their grace or agility on land. They waddle and they stumble and they fall over a lot. But in the water, they are surprisingly graceful, fluid, and fast. So why are polar bears such great swimmers? Well, today we're going to look at 3 reasons why polar bears are great swimmers. No. 1, their bodies. No. 2, their paws. And no. 3, their fur. Let's start with their bodies. Polar bears have long, sleek bodies that taper to a point at the front and the back. This shape helps them move through the water more easily. It's kind of like a boat with a pointy front. And a pointy back moves through the water much more easily than a blocky boat or a round boat. The same is true for polar bears. Their bodies help them cut through the water with less effort. Now, you might think a polar bear's body shape is kind of like a shark's body shape. After all, both sharks and polar bears are great swimmers. But there is one big difference between the way a shark-esque body is shaped and a polar bear-esque body is shaped. You see, a shark's body is perfectly suited for swimming in the water, but it's not so well suited for life on land. A polar bear's body is the opposite. It's perfectly suited for life on land, but not so well suited for swimming in the water. Polar bears spend most of their lives on land, because that's where they hang out with other polar bears, and that's where they raise their babies. Swimming in the water is only part of their daily routine. It's how they hunt for food. So you can see how their bodies have evolved to be great swimmers, even though they do spend all that much time in the water. Another thing that makes polar bears great swimmers are their paws. Polar bears have 2 front paws and 2 back paws, just like you and me. But their front paws are webbed, kind of like an otter's paws or a duck's paws. Webbed paws help with swimming because they create less resistance in the water. If you tried swimming with flippers, you would probably be a lot faster than if you were wearing regular shoes. That's because water shoes or flippers create less resistance in the water than regular shoes. The same is true for polar bears. Their webbed paws help them swim faster and more efficiently. Now, you might think that having webbed paws would make it hard for polar bears to walk on land, and you'd be right. It does make it harder for them to walk on land. But remember, polar bears spend very little time walking on land. Most of the time, they're either running on land or swimming in the water. And both of those things are easier to do with webbed paws. The last thing that makes polar bears great swimmers is their fur. Polar bears have 2 coats of fur. The fur closest to their skin is soft and downy, and the fur that you see is long and stiff. This 2-layered coat helps keep them warm in the frigid water, and it also makes them more buoyant, which means it makes it easier for them to float in the water. In fact, polar bear fur has the same effect on their bodies as a life jacket would have on ours. So, thanks to their fur, polar bears don't have to work very hard to stay afloat while they're swimming. So there you go. Thanks to their bodies, their paws, and their fur, polar bears are perfectly adapted to be great swimmers. Thanks for watching. If you liked this episode, you might like the episode, Why do polar bears have white fur? Or you might like the episode, Why do sharks have to keep moving? Click on one of those. And don't forget to subscribe. Bye.